Hello everyone and welcome to the Daily Signal's Top 10. I'm Jenny Malzabano and here with me is our Daily Signal contributor Jarrett Stutman. No doubt if you've watched the news this week, you know that immigration is the hot button issue and everyone has an opinion. So this week we're going to break down the top 10 immigration moments for you on today's show. First, though, we have some sad news to reflect on. Charles Krauthammer, the legendary conservative columnist, passed away at the age of 68, well known for appearing on Fox News on the Brett Baer show. What did he mean to you, Jarrett? It's a massive loss.
It is a big loss. I mean, I remember watching Charles Krauthammer when I was growing up and when I was in high school and college, and that he was always able to articulate his positions without getting vicious or nasty towards those he disagreed with. And he was always so intelligent. He always had a good take on everything. And I think there are a lot of especially young conservatives who look up to Charles Krauthammer and say, I want to be like that. I want to be smart and thoughtful and like him. And so he definitely meant a lot to me. How about you, Jenny?
Well, it's really interesting because to me, he was always so above the fray, yet he knew everything. It seems like he inspired conservatives across the spectrum. Personally, I really started reading him during the 2012 election, probably because it was my first election. I was old enough to really understand, have a say in. And so this loss is huge, but luckily his words will live on, as a lot of people have pointed out. So definitely thinking of his family. All right, first up, number 10, the Time magazine cover. What a controversy. So it's come out that this kid actually was not separated from her parents, although a lot of liberal and people on the left are saying, well, it's inspired a bigger conversation, so it doesn't matter. What do you think?
Well, it's incredible. This is one of those fake but true, according to the media. And of course, this photo has been proven to, well, it's not real. It's not real in that this story that she was separated from her parents. Actually, she came to this country with her mother, was not separated from her. Her mother willingly crossed the border, went back with her daughter. So, I mean, this is a fake news story, but unfortunately, because the media has peddled this around the country, this is the image people are seeing. And it's not based in reality, and it does distort the truth. And at the very least, there's other media that called this out. And another time, this might have just been a lie that just kept going and going and going. At least there's other media to say, hey, we've done some fact checking, you're not right.
On my Instagram stories, I've seen so many celebrities have attached to this photo, and I just kind of want to shake them and say, do you not realize the controversy behind this photo? But fake news continues to spread as usual. Number 9, so President Trump signed an immigration executive order this week. Watch this.
So we're keeping families together, and this will solve that problem. At the same time, we are keeping a very powerful border, and it continues to be a zero tolerance. We have zero tolerance for people that enter our country illegally.
So a lot of people were very shocked that he ended up signing an executive order because it doesn't fix things in the long term, right? I mean, Congress still needs to act, although a lot of Democrats still aren't happy with him doing this. So it seems like in any situation, the Democrats aren't happy unless it's just open borders for all.
I mean, that does seem to be a big part of this. Of course, this executive order doesn't necessarily stop what's going to happen. I mean, this comes down to a court case, ultimately, in the battle in the courts. And you know, it does kind of go to what does the left really want here? Is the problem separating families? They're saying, well, no, maybe people shouldn't be detained at all. And that goes to the idea that the left is really about open borders in this country, something that I don't think a lot of people want, including many people who are Democrats, who more or less side of the Democrat Party on other issues. I don't think they necessarily want open borders where we don't enforce our laws at the border.
Yeah, well, now the ball is in Congress's court, so we're going to see what happens. Okay, number 8. So the media is calling a lot of these Trump administration policies, they're comparing them to Nazism, concentration camps. Check out this clip.
We can't find a solution to this problem without harming children, without putting them into concentration camps.
And I would even say, Stephanie, to that point, it's not even an interpretation of the law. It is a policy.
A new policy.
It is a policy that has been invoked by the President of the United States and dictated to his Attorney General, who goes out and quotes the Bible. By the way, a passage that was used to justify slavery in this country, to justify encamping children. I call this a concentration camp for kids because that's exactly what it's turning out to.
I have a lot to say on this one because I think everyone across the spectrum, the political spectrum, agrees this is not a good look. No one wants to see kids being separated. It's awful, right? But I think that there is a true danger and a real danger in comparing everything we don't like to Nazism to Hitler. In fact, one of my favorite professors, he was liberal. He stressed The danger nowadays is you hear kids say, oh, she's Hitler, she's like Hitler. We think it's funny, we laugh, but it's very dangerous to automatically attribute things to that kind of level and that kind of standard.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you always hurt your argument ultimately when you're comparing policies to Adolf Hitler, to a Nazi regime, to concentration camps. I mean, there are still people around today. Remember, what it was like with Hitler's concentration camps. I mean, my wife's family grew up in the Eastern Bloc, Jews. I mean, so I think they understand why this is such really a contemptible idea that this is akin to concentration camps in Nazi Germany. And I think that they're really going to weaken their argument. Look, you can argue that the policy's not good, that it's bad, that you may even say it's inhumane, but comparing it to the most evil regime I think most people see in human history is way, way beyond the bounds. And frankly, I think it's going to turn a lot of people off to their ideas.
I think it already has. Number 7, so the First Lady pulled off a remarkable surprise visit to Texas, but her Zara jacket was causing some controversy. Watch this.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm glad I'm here and I'm looking forward to seeing and meeting children. But first of all, let me begin to recognize each of you and thanking you for all what you do, for your heroic work that you do every day and what you do for those children. We all know they're here without their families. And I want to thank you for your hard work, your compassion, and your kindness you're giving them in these difficult times.
So the First Lady wore a jacket, as you can see on the back, it says, "I don't really care, do you?" And this created just a media firestorm. Unfortunately, it sort of overshadowed her great visit down to Texas. Although, being on the First Lady beat, I definitely think something was up with this. Although, my first impression was, this is a ha-ha at the media, because look what they're doing, right? They're fixated on this and not her going down to Texas to see the children. Now, I realize that's a minority opinion, and a lot in the media are saying, oh, how dare she do this? What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot, even on the left-wing side of the media, that understand that they've overreacted so much to this issue, and maybe this is an intention to provoke the media into acting hysterically. I mean, honestly, that has boosted President Donald Trump because people see, well, President Trump says one thing, the media completely overreacts and cries wolf, and we see all these crazy things, and nothing terrible happens. So I think to a certain extent, I mean, this definitely got people riled up in the media, and I think that may have been some of the intention here, and say, hey, we don't really care what the media says about us. We're just going to do what's best for the country and what, the people who brought us into office care about. So I think that's a large part. What do you think, Jenny?
Well, very shortly after she landed, President Trump fired off a tweet, and he said, well, Melania is over the fake news media. Of course it's about y'all. So interesting that he fired off right away. We'll have to see. I mean, Melania is a very interesting First Lady to watch. She knows the value of a moment in a fashion statement, no doubt. Number 6, there was a media meltdown this week. Rachel Maddow broke down on TV. Watch this.
Trump administration officials have been sending babies and other young children. Oh, hold on. To at least 3. Can we put up the graphic of this? Thank you. Do we have it? No. 3 tender age shelters in South Texas. Lawyers and medical providers. I think I'm going to have to hand this off. Yeah. Sorry. That does it for us tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow.
So I think with this, it's important to state that you can't try to describe how someone feels. Like, you can't deny someone's feelings. I do think that people in the news media, people that we see on our TVs, we expect them to be personable, but at the same time, there's a line. And when they cross it, when there's an overwhelming display of emotion, it can make viewers uncomfortable. It can seem unprofessional. It can even seem fake. So there's a danger in that. Well, what is your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I won't fault anybody for being emotional about an issue. Certainly children are involved. Nobody likes to see families broken up. But at the same time, I remember back to 2014, I covered this issue to a certain extent. And just like what we saw with Senator Tammy Baldwin going on CNN being asked, why didn't you say something in 2014 when these stories first broke, when we first saw children in detention facilities, where was all the sadness and where was all the attempt to do something then? we really didn't see much of that. And so to a certain extent, a lot of people say, well, this looks like it was cooked up now for political purposes. It wasn't just to help the children. It wasn't just to fix the problem at the border. And so a lot of people see that. Yes, I mean, you have a right to be emotional with things like this for sure, but it looks like a lot of this is just partisanship.
Well, and you have Chuck Schumer saying we want to keep the focus on Trump. So Republicans really, they're on the straight and narrow on this. It's the Democrats who in 2014 did not care. You had Glenn Beck talking about how he was also concerned about it in 2014. You and I were talking before the show. Pelosi was saying we don't need to politicize this. Well, newsflash, it's been politicized, and it's been politicized by the left. So, I don't know. It stays the same, unfortunately. Okay, number 5, you might not have heard about this story yet, but Ivanka Trump actually donated $50,000 to a church in Texas helping children. This just kind of came across my screen recently. I think this is great. She's caught a lot of flack for not publicly being out there more about the children being separated, although President Trump has said several times that along with the First Lady, Ivanka showed him photos and was very passionate about it behind the scenes. I think it's interesting that when it fits the left's narrative, they get mad that she doesn't speak up. But as soon as she's front and center, it's nepotism, how dare she needs to go back to New York. So once again, she can't win.
Absolutely, and of course, none of the Trumps can win when it comes to this issue, and they've attacked her viciously, I must say. In the last few years, they've attacked her viciously because of her association with their father and being in the White House. But, I mean, look, she's trying to, she feels compassion about this issue. We can say we want strong border security, and that's what a large part of this is. We still have some compassion for the people who have come across the border. It's a terrible thing. A lot of these people are abused by the smugglers, the human traffickers that have brought them here and have put them in the situation where they have had families separated. So, you know, there's a lot of evil, and it's not necessarily happening in the United States. It's happening south of the border in a lot of these places where these people have come from, and that's a terrible thing. And finding ways to alleviate that is certainly a good thing, and you know, it's good that Ivanka has gone out of her way to try to do something to help.
And this isn't 100% confirmed, but the reports I read said that she made this donation or started the process before President Trump signed the executive order, and I do think that that is worth noting. Okay, another problematic woman in the female administration, Kirsten Nielsen, the Homeland Security Secretary, was bullied out of a D.C. restaurant earlier this week. Actually, yesterday, the protest went to her house, but look at the protest while she was eating dinner.
If kids don't eat in peace, you don't eat in peace. If kids don't eat in peace, you don't eat in peace. If kids don't eat in peace, you don't eat in peace. If kids don't eat in peace, you don't eat in peace.
So Kelsey Harkness and I talked about this in depth on problematic women earlier this week. You know, the Homeland Security Secretary, she is a public figure. She deserves criticism. We live in a democracy. But bullying her out of a D.C. restaurant while she's eating dinner, going to her house while she's home, the report said, it seems like it's crossing a line, and perhaps more importantly, it definitely exposes, as Kelsey wrote about extensively for The Federalist, this double standard when it comes to feminism.
Oh, absolutely, and I found it very interesting that one of the people harassing her was actually somebody who worked in the Department of Justice, a civil servant who's working in the Department of Justice. It's a pretty incredible thing that would harass a secretary, and now they're going to her home. And look, is this what we want in America? Do we want random mobs descending upon people who we disagree with politically and harassing them in their homes? And, you know, I think that is a danger right now. America is built very much on rule of law and civility to a large extent, and this is certainly not that. And I think it's a concerning moment in our history when we see these kind of mobs descend and attack people in their private lives like this. And I think that's what a lot of people are worried about in this country, especially with how the left has acted in the last year, certainly.
Yeah, we have an amazing right to assemble and protest in this country, but I think that their argument would be much stronger if they followed it up with actual action items, not just open borders for all. Okay, number 3, Jared, I know you want to talk about this one extensively. President Trump's immigration policies are actually pretty popular. Can you explain to the audience?
Yeah, I mean, there's been certainly some polls that have come out recently, a YouGov poll that came out showing that while Americans generally don't want families to be separated, I think that's pretty well established, they also generally broadly want border security, even people who are considered Democrats. And I think what's really interesting about these polls, it shows that border security is a popular issue among the American people. It's in places like D.C. that it's seen as not fair, as something that's bad, but I think among Americans, they do want to see the border finally secured. I mean, a lot of these scenes they're saying, they say, you know, maybe we could have taken care of this stuff if we had better border security, if we had a wall at the border. I think that really makes the argument for the United States taking this more seriously, and our leaders and our politicians saying, we need to solve this issue of border security first so that terrible things don't happen down the line.
Logically, it makes sense. And I know I say this all the time, but when Sebastian Gorka said, you know, in your own home, you're gonna lock the front door, you're gonna lock the back door, you got to know who's coming in and out. It's security, right? Why not do the same thing for your country? It's not necessarily keeping people out, it's knowing about who's coming in. Okay, number 2, you might have seen this awkward moment on the House floor. Mark Meadows and Paul Ryan got into a little tiff about immigration. Watch this.
There are reports that there was a big blow-up on the floor between Speaker Paul Ryan and the head of the Freedom Caucus, Mark Meadows, over what language was in that big compromise bill, the one that the leadership endorsed, that they were trying to get the president to endorse last night. They had a big blow-up over it. I'm not sure how they're going to piece it back together. I don't think that they have the votes.
So I like both of these gentlemen. I think that everyone can agree this is kind of awkward to see playing out on TV. You know, they have it blacked out and then the little circle on them and you're like, oof, that's a little uncomfortable. But at the same time, it made me appreciate how as conservatives, we can hash it out. I mean, when you go through that filtering process, hopefully what should happen is you come out with a stronger argument and a more solid, you know, backing up of whatever's going to come out of this. So in a way, I thought maybe that's good to see.
Yeah, I mean, this is a private heated exchange. It, of course, became public when you saw this on TV and you saw the exchange. And it is a heated issue. It's something that we're trying to deal with right now. And it's there's a pretty firm battle going on. There are a lot of especially conservatives that are worried that border security is not going to be dealt with on this issue. And we feel that, a lot of times that border security has been given the short shrift when it comes to all these issues. So I think there's a reason to be heated, and hopefully something can be hashed out to deal with the issues as they are, instead of just waiting and waiting and waiting, as we're frankly we're used to.
Yeah, no, it's time to get something done, which leads right into our last topic. The House immigration vote this week was delayed. Here's Congressman Jim Jordan discussing this on Fox News.
Nothing can pass, but I will tell you this, 193 votes for the conservative bill. If our leadership had whipped that bill like they've done other pieces of legislation, we're only 19 votes short, Bill. So the real story yesterday was the fact that we were so close with the conservative bill. And frankly, the reason the other bill wasn't being brought up today is because it would get less votes than the conservative bill got yesterday. So the focus should be on that conservative bill. Let's go find those 19 other members who can pass that bill, because after all, that's the one that's consistent with the mandate from the 2016 election, because it does all the good things: border security, build the border security wall, stop visa lottery, stop chain migration, reform our asylum law, all the good things, and it also deals with the DACA population. So let's get refocused on that one and let's get it passed.
Okay, so this got pushed to next week. I know a lot of people are disappointed, but if they need time to whip up more votes and consolidate more, then this is probably good, right?
I mean, it probably has to happen. And of course, Democrats have voiced a lot of opposition too. They've put forth some proposals on this issue as well that I think may have been a little reckless in some of their aims, essentially. But at the same time, something's going to have to get done the next few weeks. I know that Republicans want to stave off this issue. They want to deal with it. I mean, they really want to stop the separation of families, yet get border security right. So it makes sense to delay it longer. I mean, these policies are going to be in place for a little while longer, so it certainly makes sense, but we do hope that something finally gets done to resolve this and finally end it.
Yeah, and hopefully we have something else to talk about next week. We want to hear from you. What did you think about the format this week? What do you think Melania's jacket meant? Thank you for joining us this week. We're going to see you back here next week, same time, same place. We hope you have a great weekend.